Hello to you all, and welcome to Pyramid Energy. I'm going to be doing an energy reading. This particular reading may not apply to those of you who listen regularly in the same way that it usually does. It may, may not. I'm going to try and paint a picture first of who I'm speaking to narrow sort of that hesitation that you may deal with as you listen to the start of this. I'm speaking to somebody who, without changing anything drastic as yet, is considering a new path. This feels like an addition to your life that may or may not affect other stuff that you involve yourself with, current relationships, current plans that you have in place. Okay. I see that you recently come through a period where, some deep healing happened. This kind of healing that I'm sensing here, I'm sensing a lot of pain born in the past, brought to the future, revisited. Some of that pain as if you'd never actually fully dealt with it yet. And the way that it came up almost felt like it could sink you, if you lean into it. And then there were those realizations where maybe it's actually like unavoidable, sort of revisiting this pain because it felt so present. But you got through it surprisingly quickly, okay? And what it did is that it restored, reconfigured and regenerated a lot of the ways that you were doing things. A lot of your ways of doing things, doing life, running projects, you need to apply this, how it resonates for you. I'm looking at the structures in your life, the way you do things, especially when you look at like things that you base on, let's say, principle or habit. These are specifically habits I'm talking about that are, ways of doing things that are pre-learned. So you learned how to do this way, and therefore you do it that way. Okay? Those have been reconfigured. Somehow you came through this healing period with a new approach, an openness to changing how you're going to do it, simply because as you were drawn into this pain, some things became starkly clear that you cannot carry on doing them like that. It's not going to work. This pain has to stop, and to stop it, I'm going to have to change the way I've been doing it. And so I'm going to do it this new way, and it's working. And that realization sort of came through the pain, and it's here to stay. The realization and the new way. Okay. And so somehow you found yourself realigned with a way of doing things that before seemed hard to approach, but now seems like the only way to do it. Okay. So this is a big change if you look at it, because yes, maybe you were dealing with one particular issue that you were dealing with, but this has actually shifted sort of like a truth that you live by. And so what's happened is that you are now doing other things in your life according to this new template. Okay, so you're actually working off a different framework, and it's calling itself revived. Okay, so you have a revived approach to doing things. I'm seeing a lot of impositions. I'm seeing like that you were dealing with a lot of stale ways were being imposed on new things. And so it feels like you were pulling heavy. It feels like, new things that you wanted to try. And when I say new things, I'm like looking at you as an individual. I'm looking at how you present yourself to people. I'm looking at new projects. I'm looking at a whole lot of things. These are all manifestations. And I'm seeing that some of these stale ways were imposing on all of these new things, all of these manifestations. And so they were not able to be released with ease. Okay, so the concept is easy in your mind, but the transition from old to new was a bit difficult, and that's because of old ways of doing things. That's because, this, I have to do it like this, I have to start from scratch like this is how this is done. Okay, and if you're talking about you as an individual, we're talking about, let's say you just want to actually wake up tomorrow and act like the new version of yourself that you've just created. And so you understand exactly what that new person looks like, how they walk, how they talk, how they feel about things, how they present themselves, all of that. But for some reason, you feel bound to this idea that a person needs to sort of have the legacy that matches the new way. And so you can't just wake up tomorrow behaving like this new version, because you kind of either owe it to some people to stay the way you were, otherwise you damage those relationships, for example, or let's say it's a new project. It feels like you need to start it afresh, just like all your other ones, instead of sort of welcoming this new thing into your life and allowing it to benefit off all of the other things that you've already built, that you have systems for, sort of a plug and play, sort of a shortcut. And so you weren't aware that you're allowed to use the shortcut. Okay, you weren't aware that you don't have to start from scratch just because society dictates that you must, just because, this is what I'm talking about. This also feels like a very silent transformation that's taken place here. Okay, it feels like you've been sitting with this idea of yourself or of something for a really long time, sometimes forgetting about it, sometimes, so I'm talking about the moment of leap now. I'm talking about the moment where you take that thing that's pretty much complete, that's dealt with a lot of blocks, to, releasing it, allowing it to come out into the world, for it to be realized by you, by others. You've taken a really long time with this thing. So I feel like it was born some time back. And I also feel like there are so many things. This could have started a long time ago. However, a lot of the information that you would have needed to release this or to use it or to become it, okay? A lot of that information was not at your fingertips yet, but that they're saying that that's because of readiness, timing, stuff like that, because it's almost like a certain set of circumstances and disappointments need to be realized before someone like you really looks at something like this and takes it quite seriously. And so what's happened is that set of circumstances and disappointments you went through, and so now you're here. Okay, you're at this moment of leap. And I see that in your near future in the Fool and the Ten of Cups. Because what's happening is that this thing may have seemed like a little bit of a luxury or an extra, or if I'm bored one day, maybe I'll do this, like when someone daydreams about, let's say, the person they want to become, or the project that they want to start, and you kind of put it on the back burner and you don't take it that seriously. But on a more personal, secret level, you know that you want to do this thing. You know that you can, but there are just a few limitations, and I'm seeing these limitations in your surrounding factors. This is like, dealing with the idea of changing and how it will affect your community, your relationships, your family, the people that, let's put it in inverted commas, know you. Okay, because now what's happening is that you have changed what you know about yourself, what you know about what you can do, but not everyone got the sort of training manual on the new version of you, and you also haven't even tested out this training manual, but you can't really do that in this case. You kind of have to just do it. But I'm seeing that your limitations, really, all it is considering how this will matter or make sense to others. There are things that hold you back. It's these two things. The one is considering others, their reactions, whether they will like this version or not, whether it will work for them. It's stuff like that. Whether it will cause any kind of disruption, whether they will see you as an imposter. For example, I'm seeing imposter syndrome. Okay? I'm seeing imposter syndrome, which is interesting because this version of yourself internally you've actually become really aware of. And what's happening lately is that it's sort of seeping out of you cannot contain this. You can't contain it. Again, whether it's an idea or a project or a new version of yourself or an aspect of yourself that you finally want to sort of release out into the world, it is coming out. And you are almost struggling to hold it back because it is in the phase where it starts, it's starting to sort of unconceal itself, like without you actually taking action and actually doing stuff about it. It's just sort of self-creating at this point. I'm sort of seeing a vision of some kind of an organism that sheds automatically without prompting itself. I'm not sure if I'm looking at a snake or if I'm looking at a caterpillar in a cocoon, or if I'm looking at something that just spontaneously starts shedding, like a tree. Like it's the season, like the leaves are just going to start falling off. I mean, the weather's changed, everything's changed, and it's like time, and it's happening even though you were still quite happy to keep looking at and sort of being present where you were. And what's coming through with this metaphor is almost like you could really get comfortable in the state that you're in if you're not aware of what it will be like as soon as the shedding is complete, as soon as this release is done. That's the energy that I'm getting here. Okay, and so you have been dealing with a sense of a sort of a resistance, a holding back, a little bit like, I'm seeing like a child wanting to ride their bicycle and they're ready on it, but someone's like sort of tied a rope that's sort of holding them back, and so they're ready to pedal and like they're being held back. I'm seeing something like that, and so that rope is going to be released and you're going to go. Okay. I'm also seeing here in your advice, they're saying, okay, because I've got the Empress in your advice and I've got the Emperor at the center. Okay. So they are showing this to me almost like this was planted in you for you to create, for you to bring together. Okay, I've also got the Chariot. There's something about the Chariot card and the Four of Wands that sort of takes me to, how things come together and how things move when both parts are in balance. Okay, and each part does not need to be perfect, but they're in balance. Okay, it's sort of like yin and yang energy. It's like that. And so you're able to create something by virtue of each of these parts that's necessary for the whole to move forward, each of them being sort of where they need to be in relation to the other in order to create something. Okay, because it doesn't matter what size this thing is. It's more around are both sides pulling their weight? Are we in balance? And I'm seeing the balance here at the top of mind. I've got the Justice card as clarity for the Page of Wands. And so you are sort of really focused on how can I do this in a way that feels balanced, that makes sense, that does not leave me feeling like an imposter, that is true to me, okay, in a way that matches me. Okay, so this needs to make sense to me and it needs to make sense to my world because I relate to my world. But I'm not looking at it like the world needs to receive this the right way. I'm looking at this more like I have discovered so many things about myself that I am capable of, and I now want to present this, express this as an expression of my true way of being and of doing things. And so it's like an improved version of myself. So this is still me, but it's the better version. It's the version that I've been dreaming about. It's the version that I've been wanting to create, and that I have already created, and that I am in the process of becoming. And so this is more around being mindful how you take action so that you do not create a huge gap between what you are and what you do now and what you are going to create. Okay, so I'm seeing you giving room for this new thing to grow and to spread its wings and to flourish, but to not ever feel bigger than you, because it comes from you, and therefore it must be true to you for you to be able to maintain it, nurture it, look after it, and also explain yourself to you and to others as you move through. Okay, so this is just, it feels like we are reconciling almost back from this imposter syndrome. Okay, because you are reconciling your inner world with your outer world. You are bringing something into the world of yourself, and naturally just realizing what is already there, and not letting projections limit your action, limit your expression, and even your own projections is what I'm seeing here. Okay, and I do see again a little bit more of this imposter syndrome in the area of what you want the most and fear the most. I have the 9 of Pentacles and the 5 of Cups, and that is like the fear that this will not live up to expectations. Okay, and right here with the 5 of Cups is I also have 5 of Swords, 5 of Pentacles, so it's all these 3 5s. So it's a lot of change that you're balancing here. And you know what I think about? As much as I don't know whether we are talking about you or talking about a project or talking about a new thing or whatever it is, I'm definitely seeing the idea of needing to keep a balance as you change things. Okay, and I'm definitely seeing the impact of, you know, how you're anticipating others to react. I'm feeling that. I'm definitely feeling that. Okay? But as I say that, another thing that I'm seeing is that your environment is ready for their preconceptions, misconceptions to be challenged, is what I'm seeing here, because there are opportunities that those around you have not taken up that they would like to, and they are limited by the same thing. So it's almost like this space that at times seems to project limitations onto you is dealing with the same challenge. And so you'd be breaking the mold. That's what you'd be doing. And another thing I'm noticing here about the reaction of your surroundings is that there seems to be some kind of awareness of the shift that's happening with you. They're seeing this in you. Some of the old things that would be projected onto you no longer feel aligned. What this is like is, let's say someone's repeating on a program who you are to you because they're used to that. They're aware that that no longer applies to you, but they haven't received the memo. They don't know what the new version looks like, and so they don't really know what to do. And I don't mean that they've really applied their minds thoroughly to this, but they're aware that there's a change. It is very obvious, this change. It is a more empowered version of you. That is clear. They just don't know how long that will last. I get the sense that you've dealt with stop and start energy before. Okay, and I also get the sense that you're dealing with that now yourself. You seem to think maybe, you know, this stop and start energy might affect this new thing, is what they're showing me. And they're saying your current approach of letting it be, letting it breathe through your true self, you just literally do this by not enforcing any things that feel onerous, untrue, unaligned onto this new thing. So they're saying you literally just already at this point, it's too difficult, too strenuous to apply these old and heavier expected ways on this new path, this new thing. It's too difficult. And they're saying that you'll see that happening, that's what you're dealing with when things start to take long and start to feel heavy. That's when you shed that. That's when you say, okay, that means that doesn't belong. If it's taking me too long and it doesn't feel like it's coming from my own heart and it doesn't feel true and it feels like something I'm doing just because that's how I'm expected to do it, then you're just literally going to throw it away. That's how they're putting this. In your outcome, I've got the Strength card, the Ace of Swords, Two of Pentacles, the Magician, and the Lovers. And what they're showing me here is that you're going to come through here with a new, this is courage, but this is like, I'm just going to do this. Okay, it's clarity. Okay, I've got that in the Ace of Swords. And they're saying, as soon as you have those two things ironed out, and you'll feel them when they land. Once you have those two things ironed out, you're actually going to, this Two of Pentacles represents sort of changing your decision on, Magician and Lovers is almost like where this fits into the bigger scheme of things. They're saying that you're going to come through with a shifted perspective on this, a perspective that you would not actually be able to be privy to if you didn't gain the sort of courage and clarity to take this thing on, to do this. And so once you've committed to doing this, and it's not to the bigger picture, it's just to starting, letting it breathe, letting it be revealed. You're going to change your level of commitment to it because you're going to realize that there's something here. Okay, there's something here. It's almost like you've looked in so many places for this thing, and something is going to be born here. Okay, and I don't want to say it's going to shock you or surprise you. I'm not going to say that. I just mean you're the manifester. You're the one who creates the shock, right? If it's going to be a shock or not, or whatever, or something you love, or something that you just want to spend more time in and more commitment towards. They're saying you're going to be changing how you see this thing. Okay, and I don't know whether that's because of how it's been born, or how long you've sat with it, or what it means to you, and what sort of promise it brings. They're saying that, okay, you're in for a surprise, and they're saying that this is going to teach you so much more about what else you're capable of. Okay, so it's almost like I'm seeing someone, when they say an opportunity opens doors, they're showing me you opening a new door into yourself is what I'm seeing here. I'm going to leave this reading here. I'd love to hear how it resonated or not. Okay, either way, that's fine. Sending you all so much love.